As summer starts to wane and cooler days approach, many of us are left thinking, will my tomatoes ripen in time? Today we're going to look at how to get these guys across the finishing line, how to ripen tomatoes off the vine at the end of the season, and that is divine. Well, with a few more weeks of summer still to come, we should be doing everything within our grasp to give our tomatoes the resources they need to ripen up those straggler tomatoes. We need this for all the effort and love we've put into it, to make those sources to put something aside for later. Regular feeding with a liquid tomato feed will help to encourage sluggish plants. With all those nutrients, we'll get stronger plants, and because this liquid tomato feed is relatively high in potassium, that's going to encourage fruit formation and crucially ripening. In the summer months, I like to feed my plants at least once every 2 weeks. Now please don't skip on this vital stage. It will dramatically improve both the quantity and the quality of your fruits. The best taste comes of course from tomatoes ripened on the vine or bush, and warmth really helps with that. So as days start to cool off, consider shutting windows, doors and vents, especially as we approach night time, to lock in more of that precious warmth. Now may also be a good time to clear off any greenhouse shading if you've added it, but do check the forecast for any late kind of warm spells. Now my greenhouse hasn't got any shading on, but it is naturally a bit grubby, but that has paid off quite well because it's, well, cast shade, hasn't it, during the hottest weeks of the year. But as cooler days approach, it makes sense to give the greenhouse roof a bit of a scrub. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to cut back any overhanging branches to maximise the amount of sun reaching in there. Later on in the summer, as we tip into autumn, say 6 to 8 weeks before your first expected frost date, it's worth removing any more flowers that appear. Shorter days mean dramatically slower growth, and flowers that appear now are very unlikely to set fruit, swell and ripen all in time. So pick them off, though in warmer climates you may get away with that. With cordon or vining tomatoes, pinch out the top of your vines as well as any side shoots to effectively stop vegetative growth in its tracks. With the flowers removed and any excess foliage removed, the plant has no choice but to concentrate all of its efforts into ripening those fruits. Tomatoes take as long as 2 months to go from flower to fully ripe fruit, so it's no surprise that for many of us, a lot of our fruits come right at the end of the season. So how do we know when to wrap up our efforts? Well, when days really start to shorten and temperatures drop, remaining below about 55 Fahrenheit or 13 Celsius for much of the day, they're unlikely to ripen any further. These are warm season crops and they really won't appreciate those decidedly autumnal conditions. So at that point, it's time to get in there, harvest the remainder and bring them inside to finish off. How long tomatoes take to ripen off the vine depends on what size they are and how much colour they're showing. I've laid out my tomatoes here. I'm going to show you a few examples. So this tomato here is fairly light green and it's reached its final size. So this is quite likely to ripen off the vine. Something that's dark green, however, a bit like this one here, is less likely to. So that's my experience anyway. Then there are these guys here which are clearly blushing. That means they're showing a good hint of colour. These guys have started to emit ethylene gas. Now ethylene is a gas that promotes ripening. So once they start doing that, it really hastens that ripening process. I reckon these guys could be 1 to maybe maximum of 2 weeks away from fully turning red. And then these guys here are obviously ready to enjoy immediately. So fruits like these guys that are either blushing or very, very pale green, they're very likely to fully ripen and they can just be left on a countertop anywhere warm, because at this stage it's the warmth that's doing the heavy lifting, not the light. Having said that, a bright windowsill is normally a nice warm place for them, so that's a good spot. Hello? Yeah, what's that? You want to help the tomatoes along to ripen? Okay, brilliant. Well, as you heard, bananas and apples are fantastic at helping speed along the ripening process, because these guys are the kings of emitting ethylene. So if you want to make double sure they ripen and speed things along, just pop one of them in with your ripening tomatoes. You could also put your tomatoes and banana in an enclosed space, such as a drawer or a paper bag. Now this will concentrate and hold on, trap all of that ethylene gas to really kind of hone its effects. Do be sure that there's plenty of air exchange. That's why a paper bag is better than a plastic one, and check regularly to remove any ripe tomatoes so they don't get overripe. Now, whatever you do, do not put your tomatoes in the fridge, because that will just bring down the shutters on your hopes of ripe tomatoes. So what about those toms that stubbornly refuse to colour up? Well, there are loads of fantastic recipes for using up green tomatoes, and here are two of my favourites. The first time I tried southern fried green tomatoes, my mind was officially blown. Crunchy on the outside, soft, creamy and unctuous on the middle. This southern soul food is a culinary dream. So the first job is to cut up our tomatoes into 1/4 inch or 1/2 centimetre thick rounds, and they've got to be nice firm green tomatoes. Right, they're all sliced perfectly. Now they're going to get their nice crispy coating. So I've got 3 bowls here. First dropped into some seasoned flour, just with a bit of salt and pepper. Then a beaten egg. You could use some sort of egg alternative, of course. And then finally into some breadcrumbs, cornmeal or polenta. I'm using polenta. There we are, nice and coated. And then drop them into your oil. I'm using a neutral oil here. Sunflower oil, canola or rapeseed oil would be fine. I'm using sunflower. Little tip for you, although it's not working too well, is to keep one hand for the dry and then one hand for the wet, the eggs here, and sort of alternate them like that. I'll tell you what, that isn't half smelling too bad. Ooh, now look at that. Doesn't that look the business? And there we go. Lovely, crispy, golden, and well, just perfect really. I love them served with mayonnaise, cut with a little bit of sriracha, but a sweet chilli sauce would be fantastic too. Gosh, that's good. And now for something fresh and zesty, green tomato salsa. It's quick, it's easy, and it goes with so many dishes, or as a cheeky wake-up call to Taco Tuesdays. I've just roasted off these green tomatoes, and that's important to do that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cilantro or coriander, should do it. Some chopped up red onions. Can't not have a chilli, so add one of those guys in. And then to bring it all to life, I'm just going to finish it off with some lime juice, freshly squeezed. So you've got the acidity from the lime and the heat from the chili, and then a little bit of salt to finish off and give it all a good mix. And that's it really. And obviously you can adjust this to your liking. It's a little bit lumpy. You might prefer it finer, and you can dice finer to achieve that, but let's give it a wee taste test. That is divine. Head here next for the most outrageously delicious green tomato chutney. So tasty, it'll have you delighted that you've got green tomatoes left at the end of the season. I'll catch you next time.